bringing the best in indie music to millions of listeners worldwide with your host, the David Bowers. We've got a fantastic lineup of guests, as well as our engineer extraordinaire, Nick the Geek, our entire crew here at the Asylum, and me. I'm John Bon Jovial. And now, here's the voice of indie music, the David Bowers.
We've got a great show for you today. We've got a great new band out of Chicago and some old friends coming back for another visit. So we'll be getting along to them very soon. Want to say hello to our friends in Rochester, New York, who hear us through the facilities of WRFZ FM 106.3 Rochester Free Radio. And also our other listeners around the world and around the web. We're all over the place with what? Let's see, iHeart, iHeart Radio, iTunes, Spreaker, 365 Radio Network, YouTube, Mixcloud. They call themselves the BuzzHounds. And this song is called Dangerous Ride. Here are the BuzzHounds.
I never knew such a dangerous child. I should have known she'd be driving me wild. Cold drink of water poured in my face. Grab me by the hair, put me in my place. Y'all can ask me why I do what I do. You watch you move and you be doing it too, yeah. Grind it, baby, glide it, baby, ride it, baby, drive me crazy. I never felt such a dangerous ride, so tell me, baby, drive me crazy. Take me to the edge and bring me home, yeah. Throw away the key, yeah. I know we're wrong now. I was down, but now I'm 10 feet tall. I was running, now she makes me crawl. She's like a shot of whiskey to my head. When she's the boss, yeah, I do as she says. Just when I think I'm gonna hit the wall, she lifts up skirt and she shows it all, yeah. Grind it, baby, glide it, baby, ride it, baby, drive me crazy. I never knew such a dangerous child, so tell me, baby, drive me crazy. Take me to the edge and bring me home, yeah. Throw away the key, yeah. I know we're wrong now. Such a dangerous ride, so tell me, baby, drive me crazy. Take me to the edge and bring me home, yeah. Throw away the key, yeah. I never will round now. Take me to the edge and bring me home, yeah. Throw away the key, yeah. I never will now.
There you have it. Those are, ladies and gentlemen, the BuzzHounds from Chicago, Illinois. And with us is Jeff from the BuzzHounds. Welcome aboard, Jeff.
David, how are you, buddy?
Doing just fine. How about yourself there?
Oh, pretty good, man. Pretty good. Thanks for having us on.
Oh, we're so glad to have you join us. How's the weather out there in the Windy City?
Oh, it's cold. As usual.
Cold.
About,
I figured.
Yeah, how's it down there?
Yeah, well, it's a little less than cold. I think I would call it warm. Hey, tell us a little bit about the BuzzHounds now.
Well, we just got done making a record. It came out on January 8th called Dangerous Ride. You guys just heard the title track.
Right.
It's 10 tunes, and we are a three-piece band from Chicago. We've been around since 2012, and this is our fourth record, and we're excited about it. Starting to get a little buzz behind it and some airplay.
I don't blame you. It's got a good sound to it. I'm glad to hear you're getting the airplay because that's what it's all about, and it's getting, it seems, increasingly hard for new groups to get airplay, but I'm glad it's working out for you, and with your sound, I'm not surprised. So there's three guys. Tell us about the three people in the band.
Well, on drums, we got Marco Lira. And he's been kind of a staple in the Chicago music scene for a number of years. I played in the band, still plays in the band, actually, Trouble, who's had some commercial success. Marco's great. Bob Miller is our bass player, also kind of an icon and staple in the Chicago music scene. He's been playing forever and is a hell of a bass player. And then there's myself, who is the songwriter and kind of the studio rat for the band. We are obviously three-piece. We like rock and roll. We're kind of a throwback band, especially this record's a little bit more rock and roll-y, maybe 50s, 60s rock and roll melded with some acoustic and electrical tones. We do some acoustic, maybe some like throwback kind of country tunes too, like outlaw country-ish with this record. And, that's pretty much that's kind of what we are in a nutshell. We love to play live. We're looking at shows for the spring and summer now. And, just excited to get behind the new record and excited to see kind of where it will end up.
Fantastic. I was wondering about one thing you said there, though. You listed both of your other guys as icons and not yourself. So you're not a Chicago icon yet.
Well, I don't know. I kind of feel funny about calling myself an icon. I've been a musician for my whole life. So I do consider myself a musician, first and foremost. I think I always will be. When you get into it and when you do it, it's kind of a it's in your blood, I've been playing since I've been 8 years old and been making music since I've been 15. A lot of different projects from metal to blues. I play the sax as well. So I would hate to call myself an icon. Who knows? Maybe one day.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and dub you an icon, okay? As far as the David Bowers Awards is concerned, you are now a Chicago icon, right along with your two musical brothers there, and my musical brother and studio mate here, John Bon Jovial, has something he'd like to chip in with. John?
Well, yeah, Jeff. First of all, welcome to the show. We are so glad that you are here and your mates by proxy. But you mentioned something in describing the Dangerous Ride, the mix of acoustic and electric. And, of course, I know that you were also referring to the other 9 songs on the record. But one thing that I did notice in the song, and which I really like, is the very subtle use of a kind of like a 70s-based electric fuzz. Yeah, that's really cool the way you did that.
Yeah. You know what that is? It's actually an analog synth. It's a vintage analog synth that we put through like an envelope filter, and I wanted to have at least some of the tracks, like I really wanted to have at least one track that was, really, I don't want to say overproduced, but really kind of out there to kind of show, fill in all the gaps sonically. So in addition to the bass and the guitars and the drums, there's a Moog synthesizer back behind the beat and behind, down low in the mix. It kind of fills in the holes, and I'm glad you noticed that because I was trying to, when mixing that tune, just kind of create that subtle ear candy that, you don't really notice it, but it's there. If it wasn't there, you'd notice it more, kind of a deal, So,
and not only that, it's got a really nice analog feel to it as well. There's a certain warmth and dare I say it, subtle distortion to analog that, to me anyway, personally, I prefer it so much more over digital. It's going to sound strange, but to me, digital is just too clean.
Yeah, I agree. And my guy that I collaborate with in the studio, we wanted to kind of make a little bit of a throwback. And Dangerous Ride is kind of, it's got that modern-y feel to it. But when you mentioned the analog process and kind of how that sounds, I'm a big fan too. I mean, when I started recording many moons ago, it was always on Tascam decks or reel-to-reel quarter-inch, and I got used to that natural compression of the tape, and I do miss that. So it's kind of funny you mention that, because we do on these songs, we did a lot of digital, we did record the Pro Tools, but we did a lot of tape recording too. One of the tricks that we did on the vocals on most all the songs was we would run the signal chain out of the board during mix, and we would put it into a full tone tape, a tube tape echo, which is like a vintage Echoplex type recreation that would so the vocals would kind of get smacked by tape before they went down there. And some of the songs, I don't know if you guys have I Quit queued up or some of the other tunes, you can really hear that analog warmth. And not only that, we tried to go for almost like a rockabilly Elvis type delay on the vocal, like a 10 millisecond delay like they used in Sun Studios with Sam Phillips and all the greats back in
you're talking some 50s. Pioneering stuff there. Yeah, that's some great stuff. I mean, and David and I, we were talking about, it's funny that you're mentioning the reel-to-reels. We were talking about that the other day, reminiscing about our days on terrestrial radio, where we were working with Scully decks and the old Ampex 440s, and just amazing pieces of equipment that were so capable of editing and the things that you could accomplish with these very simple yet just strong like a bull tape decks, and what they were capable of doing was nothing short of phenomenal.
Glad John brought out that 70s sound, because I was noticing that too. Very definitely reminiscent of the early 70s. But also, you mentioned the fuzz, and we had just recently, we had the daughter of the guy who really was the classic artist that created fuzz and distortion, Link Ray. As a matter of fact...
Oh, man, cool. I love Link Ray, man.
March is the 60th anniversary of the release of Rumble, and we're going... Goodness. I don't think I told John Bon Jovial even this yet, but we're going to have Link Ray's daughter back on, and we're going to do a whole hour... Great. Because there is such a treasure chest of music that Link Ray did well after he did Rumble. I mean, he got into country, he got into blues, he got into all kinds of stuff. And we're going to do a whole hour on Link Ray.
And we had such a killer interview with her, too.
Yeah, she's going to be back on.
I love Link Ray, man. Link Ray is cool. People don't realize kind of how he, that overdriven sound, especially back when he did it. There's some really cool footage of him in the 70s doing that too, with serious distortion, almost like Jimi Hendrix. I'm sure you guys have seen that version on YouTube, and it's like, oh my goodness, to think that stuff came out when it did. And I love the original tune Rumble. In fact, I posted a couple clips on YouTube just kind of messing around in the studio, and I love vintage gear, I love vintage guitars, and he's I think he used a Gretsch at one time, and a Gibson, and I've got an old Gretsch, and that really lends itself nicely to that tune. Sometimes I just go in the basement and just jam those chords that he played, because it's so easy. That song is such an easy tune, but it's just so cool.
Yeah, it's so expressive. It's just got so much heart and guts to it. And I'm glad we got into that. And if you love Link Ray, you're going to love the show. Now, I don't know which week in March it's going to be yet, but I'm guessing at this point it's going to be one of the first 2 weeks of March. But we'll be announcing the date as soon as we can get the calendar set there. But let's get back to the BuzzHounds and your new album. Now, you said that you have... you've really run the gamut of styles with virtually everything from 70s throwback rock to outlaw country. And where do you draw on to, for example, this album? Where did you get the idea to do this compendium of sounds?
It's kind of funny, and thanks for asking. It's a great question. As a guitar player and a musician, I find myself, as I get older, I keep going backwards in time. Because I like what's going on now, but as a player, as a guitar player, I'm really intrigued going backwards. So, obviously growing up, my dad loved Zeppelin, and you get that rock instilled in your blood, right? But then when you kind of digest that, you're like, all right, well, where did this come from, right? So you go back, and well, then you look at who influenced who. You mentioned Link Wray. I mean, Jimmy Page was a huge Link Wray fan. So then you're just kind of doing the deduction. What's the lowest common denominator? So then you go back to '60s surf, and that's cool. And then in the '50s, you're going down to rockabilly, and it's kind of funny because these days I'm like really jonesing about all these cool rockabilly records that were made in the 50s. Eddie Cochran, Gene Vincent, and the stuff that we're doing now are actually kind of funny. I'm always trying to work and work on new things. We're actually doing a rockabilly record right now.
Wow.
So, who knows? Maybe when that's done, we'll get into like 40s jazz. Who knows? But to answer your question, I've always been like a music history buff. I like all styles of music, and the styles that I've been gravitating to have kind of taken me through this backwards journey through time. And I love outlaw country. I love 70s country. I love rockabilly. I love the 60s, vintage reverb amp, surfy sound of the guitar. And so this record was like, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Jan and Dean in the garage overdubbing voice tracks on quarter-inch reel-to-reel.
Yeah. I mean, and the Ventures.
Yeah.
The Ventures too. Yeah,
I love all that stuff. And for me, it's like
you mentioned you mentioned Jimmy Page being a fan of Link Wray, and you can hear that in in Zeppelin's first album, the song "Communication Breakdown." You can hear that fuzz, that Link Wray sound.
Yeah, Link Wray is definitely been overlooked and should have been in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame long ago because he has so many claims to fame. I mean, aside from the fact that he was an incredible musician, but his landmark sound that he created, he came out with, as far as I know, it is still the only instrumental record that was banned from commercial radio. And he's also the first Native American rock star. There's a fantastic documentary out. I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's called Rumble, the Indians That Rocked the World. And it came out last year. Great documentary on it. And we're really happy to be able to have his daughter on the show again. Now, before we do, you mentioned the song that we are going to play next, and I guess we've got a couple of minutes left, so we have time for you to tell us a little bit about this, because this is this one pushes the envelope a little bit more than Dangerous Ride, this thing called I Quit. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I Quit. I Quit is kind of like a modern-day take this job and shove it, and I guess I say modern-day kind of loosely because it's kind of a throwback to Johnny Paycheck's tune, Take This Job and Shove It. How many people are bummed out about their jobs? And I just, it's one of those tunes that I just I woke up one day and, not that I'm unhappy with my job or anything, but I had this jingle, I quit, my boss don't, give a you-know-what.
Right.
And, so, we laid it down. My collaborator in the studio on the engineering board, Mikey V out here in Chicago, we laid that tune down. And, the cool thing about this tune is everything in this whole signal chain is vintage. I used a early 50s Gretsch, Chet Atkins guitar, 6120, and a 62 Princeton reverb on the track, and you can really hear that full tone tape delay slap echo, that rockabilly slap on the vocal, like they did in Sun Studio, set at 10 milliseconds. So I wanted to actually boost it up a little bit more, but we kind of governed it down so it didn't sound ridiculous. But it's got that rockabilly twang to it. It's definitely got that 70s Johnny Paycheck takes his job and shove it feel to the tune with maybe like an Elvis vocal on it. And might I add my good friend Liz Alana on background vocals. She really tears it up, especially during the bridge of the song. She's a hell of a singer.
Ladies and gentlemen, these are the BuzzHounds. The song is "I Quit."
That's it. I quit. Boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all in my clothes here. That's it. I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all in my clothes here. And when he tells me daylight's burning, turning his back on, yeah, my neighbor's pissing right in my backyard. I take his job and shove it, baby, if I only could. Pack my shit and move to Hollywood. That's it, I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. That's it, I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. It's funny how fast life flies by when all you do is work. It's funny how we all turn into jerks. When Mama asked me what I want to be when I get older, I never told her change up to a folder. So that's it, I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. That's it, I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. And when he tells me daylight's burning, turning his back on, and my neighbor's pissing right in my backyard, I take this job and shove it, baby, if I only could. I pack my shit and move to Hollywood. Hollywood, Hollywood, Hollywood. I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. Woo! That's it. I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here. Woo! That's it. I quit. My boss don't give a shit. If I live or I die, all of my clothes here.
Oh yeah, all right. I had that same problem myself. I was ready to quit.
Yeah.
Until I realized I am the boss. So I mean, what the heck?
Johnny and Johnny Paycheck would be proud.
Johnny Paycheck would be proud. These guys took a country song and they made a retro rock follow-up to it. Or follow-up isn't the word I want to say, but a salute to it, actually. And he would be proud. Great job, guys. The BuzzHounds, ladies and gentlemen. What'd you think about that, John Bon Jovial?
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. And, I love the rockabilly aspect to it. I like the subtle salute to Johnny Paycheck in there. Nice job. They did a nice job. Hey, we've got